Folks are crying conspiracy after last night's draft lottery was announced as teams found out where they were going to be picking in this year's NBA draft. And after one of the greatest trades that shook the NBA world in the history of what in the world is going on, after the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka Dončić to the Lakers for Anthony Davis and some other things, the Dallas Mavericks get the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft.
So you guys are screaming conspiracy theory, and the fix is in.
It's rigged.
I have a tough time believing that that's the case, but maybe I'm naive to this whole thing. I haven't really paid that much attention to it, but John Michaels has some news and notes and information on previous drafts where teams have done something prior the year before and then let this thing happen, and somehow, some way, they end up with the #1 overall
Now,
pick.
Brian Windhorst, before this goes down, he threw it out there that the possibility, and he did it with a smirk on his face, the possibility of this would happen might seem a little bit quirky.
Wouldn't it be fascinating if the number 10 envelope opened and there wasn't a Dallas Mavericks logo in it, and meaning that they jumped up? What a year for the Mavericks. Imagine if it ended with Nico Harrison jumping into the top 4. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't missing the playoffs and getting into the lottery start to look like a grand madman's plot all along?
Now, what he was talking about, the 10 situation was they were tied with the Chicago Bulls. They had to flip a coin. Whoever won the coin toss was going to be able to get up into the top 4. The Chicago Bulls lost. So it was some luck involved.
Wow. Yeah.
And the NBA takes it very seriously, them and these ping pong balls and assigned numbers that they do to make sure that everything's on the up and up.
You can go all the way back to the very first NBA draft lottery after the 1984 season. Patrick Ewing, the mysterious frozen envelope that they've talked about forever, to get Patrick Ewing in New York because the Knicks had been terrible. Patrick Ewing was the best player. So that was the first place of conspiracy theory. So let's move along.
Hold on. I just, frozen envelope. Like, where does this story come from?
So it
sounds like Fantasyland.
It comes from, they used to be in a hopper. Like in old school, you put a bunch of teams in a hopper and turn it.
Okay, like bingo.
The rumor was that the Knicks envelope had been in a freezer, so it was cold. So if you go and look at the old draft, you can look at it now on YouTube. When you look at the envelope being fished out, there's not just closing your eyes, somebody blindfolded pulling out. There's a feeling inside for the card that comes out with the Knicks getting Patrick Ewing.
We don't know. The NBA refutes all of this, of course.
Okay.
So then,
thank you.
Then when LeBron James, Akron-born LeBron James, who gets the first pick? Cleveland. Of course. LeBron James leaves. The Cavaliers then get 3 of the next 4 first overall picks. 3 of the next 4 after.
The odds were in their favor because they were a bad basketball team.
Yeah, they were a bad basketball team, but it's amazing.
They had higher odds than recent teams that have gotten it.
Anthony Davis, after the Chris Paul trade, New Orleans has to get rid of him. They immediately get the #1 overall pick. You can move on. Then Anthony Davis leaves. New Orleans then immediately gets the #1 pick to go get Zion Williamson. The Spurs, who have been the babe, the boy forever, suddenly get the #1 pick for Victor Wembanyama. You can look at some other ones. The Spurs lose David Robinson for a year with injury. They suddenly get the #1 pick and go get Tim Duncan. And now the Dallas Mavericks, who make the dumbest trade in the history of the NBA. By the way, in the 4th media market, the 4th biggest media market, dumbest trade in the history of the NBA, suddenly now get a #1 overall pick with Cooper Flagg. You know when they gave the Hawks the pick? When there was no good #1 pick.
So it could be Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Klay Thompson running around in Dallas after Luka Dončić is shipped off to L.A. So folks are crying from the highest of mountaintops, man. The fix to the conspiracy is in.
Now, this one is different. Mavs had a 1.8% chance of winning the lottery. 1.8. And the Hawks, when they got the #1 pick, were a very small percentage. Yeah. So, and of course, when the Hawks get it, there's no Cooper Flagg, there's no Wembanyama, there's no Zion, which hasn't worked out. But you don't have the guys in the name recognition when the Hawks get it, for God's sake. So where's the fix there? Nobody wants the Hawks to win?
I like a good conspiracy theory, but you have to prove it to me. Now, because of the coin flip and the combinations, it's really hard to put in the fix, if you would. But it is interesting. I will say this. If there is a hidden hand somewhere, the NBA does not want Cooper Flagg going to D.C. They don't want Cooper Flagg going to
Charlotte.
The Charlotte Hornets. They don't want him to go to the Utah Jazz. While they may want parity, the truth is they
want parity.
I agree with you. They like it when there are gangs of star talent on one team. They like a Miami Threedles. They like a Boston Three Party. They like Dallas now having multiple All-Stars and Cooper Flagg. They like big markets having the stars of stars.
You know what they would love next year when Giannis leaves Milwaukee? I wouldn't be shocked right now if the Bucks get the first pick of the draft next year.
Here is LeBron James. He was on with Pat McAfee a few months ago, and he was saying the same thing. He didn't believe everything was just random.
During the ball drop, during the lottery drop, Cleveland got the #1 pick. I just don't think that was. What a coincidence!
Don't you think?
Wemby with the Spurs.
Oh my God! Let's keep LeBron home. You know what? Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. Derrick Rose to the Bulls. Right?
He's throwing it out there. I don't think Commissioner Adam Silver liked those kinds of jokes.
No, I wouldn't think so. It's I'm going to try to have faith in the system and say it just works the way it works out, and some guys are luckier than others, and the Hawks aren't. Well, Hawks have the 13th from Sacramento and the 22nd pick from the Lakers.
So they lost their pick to the Spurs, but they gained one from the Kings, so they get the 13th and they get one from the Lakers, so the Hawks will be picking 13 and 22.
Is it more about having those picks and maybe bunching them up and moving up a little bit?
Potential. You're not going to bunch up and move up in the draft, but potentially using those picks to go after a superstar.
Okay. Call Milwaukee.
Or somebody. Milwaukee's going to hang up on you. I'm sorry.
You can't hang up right now.
Yes, they can.
Not with Reese Shea and Jalen Johnson. You can't hang up. You got to think about it.
No, they don't. Milwaukee doesn't. No offense. I like Zach Reese-Shea. I like Jalen Johnson. Milwaukee's hanging up on you immediately.
They have to rebuild for the future. Nobody's giving them a star player.
For Giannis?
No, you're going to have to give them a king's ransom to rebuild.
That's what I'm saying. The Hawks are not, there's nothing they have minus adding Trae Young into that equation.
I gave you 2 picks and 2 players.
Yeah, that's doing nothing. When De'Aaron Fox got multiple picks, who was it they just traded for 6 first-round picks? We looked at the Paul George trade. They gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 6 first-round picks for Paul George. Giannis didn't come in here. I keep saying Houston or Oklahoma City. Those are the 2 places that have picks, young players, money, whatever you need.
OKC has 10 first-round picks now through 2030.
Basketball is such a mess.
Crazy, but
so they got rid of the you're the worst team in the NBA. You get the first overall pick. The second worst team gets the second pick, and so on and so forth, because teams were tanking.
Exactly,
right?
And so they wanted to stop that.
Yes.
And it wasn't. Mark Cuban has admitted that he tanked so he could get up front to get Luka. Now, obviously, he still had to make the trade, but he admitted to doing it. Yeah, you have to do it because you cannot win without a superstar.
And I'm not signing off on the dumbest trade in all of basketball. By the way, I'm not signing off on that.
Oh, why
Luka
aren't
Dončić trying to pay that guy $50-60 million a year.
He's a superstar. He's a top 5 player in the NBA.
He was for 6 years or whatever it was.
Now.
He just went to the NBA
Will
Finals.
it be moving forward is my point. Is he going to stay in shape and do what he's supposed to do to keep his body right in the NBA and play 65 or 70 games a season?
What I won't let happen
$60 million a year.
That narrative, because nobody in their right mind said a word about Luka and conditioning when he came off the NBA final just a year ago. He was in the NBA Finals last year.
He was sitting there drinking a beer and a guy had to take it out of his hand. He's always been pudgy, and there's always been a kind of a question mark.
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
Nikola Jokic has man boobs.
Yeah, but
doesn't matter. He's the best player on the planet.
He's a champion.
Okay. I'm just saying. I think it's to be determined.
Yeah, there's some wait and see because LeBron will be leaving. There'll be transition for the Lakers, and now Luka will have to find his other all-star buddy
as
to team
opposed
up
to
with.
Anthony Davis, who's every other day has a hangnail, a soft tissue injury. He's got a sunburn. He misses games for anything.
Well, too bad.
Man.
Too bad you're going to miss out on Cooper Flagg going to Dallas since you're not locked into the NBA fan. So you're going to miss the fun.
What am I going to miss? He's not on my team.
No, but I'm saying you're not dialed into the NBA. Oh, you watch him.
I'll watch him. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you watch Cooper Flagg.
Watch Ant-Man. I'll try to watch Flagg. We watched some highlights of Cooper Flagg at Duke, right?
Goodness.
Holy moly.
Man.
They got themselves a good one.